The orbital station Epsilon Verge was never meant to be important, just a small trading post drifting in the shadow of a pale blue gas giant. Life here was slow and quiet, the kind of place where people remembered every face and every ship that came through. That changed the moment the black silhouette appeared against the stars. At first it looked like nothing more than a shadow sliding across space, but then the light from the nearby sun caught the edges of its hull, revealing a sleek, predatory shape that seemed to drink in the starlight. Commander Rourke stood on the main deck, his hand tightening around the rail as the station's long-range sensors struggled to get a clear reading. He didn't need a computer to tell him what it was. The Dread Spire. Every human fleet commander knew that name. Stories said it could wipe out entire convoys in minutes, its weapons designed to erase resistance before it could even begin. No survivors. No mercy. The bridge went silent as the ship closed in, its massive hull turning to face the station like a predator studying its prey. Then the comms cut off, every channel dead at once. A low hum began to shake the station's walls, the kind of sound you didn't just hear, you felt in your bones. Someone behind Rourke whispered, "Why isn't it firing?" But no one answered. From the engineering pit below, Lyra's voice broke through the tense silence. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange in the scan pattern." She was leaning over her console, eyes darting across the readouts. "It's, I don't know, familiar." Rourke glanced at her. "Familiar how?" "The data pulses, it's almost like old Earth defense code. Obsolete, but I've seen something like it in the archives." Before he could respond, the Dread Spire moved. A blinding white beam tore through one of the outer docking rings, ripping metal apart like paper. Emergency alarms screamed, flashing red light across the bridge. A second beam hit the agricultural dome, igniting oxygen reserves in a roaring fireball. The station shook so hard Rourke had to grab the railing to keep from falling. "Evacuation to the lower docks. Now!" His voice carried over the chaos, and the crew scrambled to obey. The Dreadspire's weapons kept firing, methodical and precise, each shot taking out another critical part of the station. Yet still, it hesitated. Between attacks, its targeting arrays would pause, cycling through some kind of scan as though it was searching for something. Lyra's fingers flew across her console, pulling up the signal code. "Commander, I think I can talk to it," she said suddenly, her voice trembling. "What?" Rourke barked. "I mean it," she said, eyes locked on the screen. "If I match its scan pulse, I might be able to, I don't know, trick it, interrupt its targeting logic." Rourke stared at her, half in disbelief, half in desperate hope. Then another blast hit the station, rocking the deck so violently that consoles sparked and an overhead panel crashed to the floor. There wasn't time to argue. "Do it." The moment Lyra began transmitting her mimic signal, the Dreadspire froze. Its weapons powered down, though the hull still glowed faintly from the heat of recent fire. The silence that followed was almost worse than the noise. It felt like the whole station was holding its breath. Then, without warning, massive boarding tubes extended from the ship's flanks, locking onto the station's midsection. Everyone braced for alien drones to pour through the seals, weapons ready. But nothing came. The tubes just stayed there, locked in place as though waiting. On Lyra's console, lines of alien text appeared, and then shifted into something else. Human characters. A single sentence blinked on the screen. "Orders." Lyra's mouth fell open. "It's asking for instructions," she whispered. For a moment, no one moved. The crew just stared, unsure if this was some kind of trap or a miracle. Rourke felt his heart pounding, his mind racing. The most feared warship in the sector was parked outside his station, silent and still, and somehow his engineer had made it listen to them. He didn't know if this was their salvation or the beginning of something far more dangerous. And then the lights flickered, and the Dreadspire's cannons slowly began to turn again, only this time not toward the station. They were aiming at something else in the darkness beyond the planet's rings, as if the ship had just remembered it had another enemy. Rourke didn't know who or what that enemy was, but he knew one thing for certain. Whatever was happening, they had just stepped into a game far bigger than Epsilon Verge, and there was no turning back. The bridge crew stood frozen, eyes darting between the massive alien warship outside and the strange human words still pulsing on Lyra's console. Rourke's throat felt dry. He had commanded ships during the frontier skirmishes, fought pirates in asteroid belts, but never in his life had he seen something like this. The Dreadspire, an executioner of worlds, was asking them for orders. He didn't know whether to answer or run. "Commander," Lyra said softly, still typing furiously. "It's not fully under our control. The alien code is still there, but the human core, whatever they built this thing on, it's waking up. I can keep it listening, but we have to act fast before its old programming takes over again." Before Rourke could respond, the ship shifted position with smooth, deliberate motion. Its cannons, once aimed at the station, were now locked on the far side of the gas giant. Sensors lit up with a massive energy spike. Something was moving in the shadow. A small alien raider ship, one of the kind that usually arrives after the Dreadspire to finish off survivors. But instead of joining it, the warship fired a single beam of blinding white light, tearing the raider apart in seconds. The debris scattered and vanished into the planet's swirling storms. Why did it do that?" someone on the bridge whispered. Lyra glanced up. "Because I told it to." Her voice was shaky, like she wasn't sure if she believed it herself. "The human code, it responds to command inputs the same way our old defense AIs used to. It's listening to me like I'm its captain." Rourke's instincts told him this was impossible, but his gut also told him that if they didn't take the chance now, they'd never get it again. "What's our next move?" he asked. She hesitated, then pointed at the data feed. "Its navigation logs show it's scheduled to reconnect with its fleet in 36 hours. When it does, it'll upload everything it's seen here. Our defenses, our weaknesses, how we fight. If we can't stop that, every human colony in this sector is going to burn." "And you think we can stop it?" Rourke asked. Lyra bit her lip. "Not stop it, but maybe change what it sends. Make the aliens think it's still doing its job." A deep vibration rumbled through the station as the Dreadspire latched onto one of the damaged docking arms. Airlocks cycled with a hiss, and the massive boarding tunnel opened to them. The crew stared at it like it was the open mouth of some beast, waiting to swallow them whole. Rourke looked at Lyra. "If we're doing this, we're doing it right. You're coming with me. We're going aboard." The small team moved through the docking tube, their footsteps echoing on the metal floor. The air inside the Dreadspire was cold, carrying a faint metallic tang. The moment they stepped into its corridor, the walls seemed to shift, panels reshaping themselves to widen the path and adjust the lighting. It was unsettling, like walking inside something alive. They reached what looked like a command chamber, a wide space ringed with alien consoles and floating displays. As they entered, the displays changed, rearranging into something closer to human systems. Simpler symbols, clearer navigation paths. "It's adapting to us," Lyra murmured. "The core's still there, deep under the alien programming. It's trying to make itself familiar." Rourke studied the displays, recognizing elements of old fleet interface designs from centuries past. The thought that this monster of a warship had been built on stolen human systems made his stomach turn. Why would they keep the original architecture? Why not strip it completely? "Because they didn't understand all of it," Lyra said. "They used what they could, layered their own commands on top, but the base programming was too complex to rewrite. It's like building a fortress on top of old ruins. You can cover it up, but the foundation's still there." The ship's lights pulsed, and a holographic display lit up in the center of the room. It showed a countdown timer, 35 hours and 47 minutes, and a star map with a marked rendezvous point. The fleet's location. "This is where it's going to upload," Lyra said. Rourke stared at the map. Every instinct told him they should blow the ship apart before it could get there. But another part of him saw something else, an opportunity. If they could ride this thing to the rendezvous point, they wouldn't just stop the data. They could feed the aliens false intel, maybe even learn something about their command structure. He met Lyra's eyes. "Can you make it send them exactly what we want?" She nodded slowly. "If I have full system access. But I'll need time, and I'll need you to trust me." The ship seemed to hear her. The countdown on the display flickered, then changed, showing a secondary timer, 36 hours to rendezvous, and beneath it, a new word in human characters, ready. It was like the ship had made its choice. But before Rourke could decide what to do next, the Dreadspire's internal sensors lit up with red warnings. An alien patrol ship had entered the system, larger than the raider it destroyed before. And this time it was coming straight for them. The deck thrummed as the Dreadspire's weapons charged. But Rourke knew this was the real test. If Lyra truly had its loyalty, they'd see it now. If she didn't, they'd all be dead in seconds. The alien patrol ship grew larger on the Dreadspire's main display, its sharp angles and jagged hull reflecting the cold light of the distant sun. Rourke could see its weapons powering up, glowing red like molten metal. The sound of the Dreadspire's own systems charging filled the command chamber, a deep rising hum that made the floor vibrate beneath their boots. Lyra, Rourke said, his voice steady but his eyes locked on the display. Tell me this thing is aiming at them and not us. Her fingers moved over the alien hybrid controls with careful precision. It's locked on the patrol ship, but the alien override is still pushing back. It wants to fire in their pattern, not ours. I'm forcing it to adapt to a human targeting sequence. The hum deepened, and then a beam of white light ripped through the darkness of space, cutting into the patrol ship's shields like they were paper. Sparks burst from the enemy's hull, and fragments spun into the void. The patrol ship tried to return fire, but the Dreadspire slid to the side with unnatural grace, dodging every shot as if it had already predicted where they would land. They don't stand a chance, one of Rourke's crew muttered. The Dreadspire's second shot finished the fight. The patrol ship's engines exploded, sending it drifting powerless, its hull breaking apart into burning pieces. Rourke kept his gaze on the wreckage, half expecting the Dreadspire to turn its guns on them next. Instead, it went silent, its weapons cooling down, waiting for the next order. It's following us, Lyra said in a quiet, almost amazed voice. Not just responding, it's anticipating our needs. Rourke walked closer to the main display, looking at the star map still glowing in the center. The rendezvous point was far, but the ship could reach it faster than anything the humans had. If we take it there, he said, we can see the heart of their fleet. We can send them lies, make them think we're still their weapon. But we'll need more than the two of us to pull it off. They returned to the station and gathered what was left of the crew. Many were wary of the idea, unwilling to step aboard a warship built to slaughter their kind. Rourke didn't blame them, but when he explained the plan, to use the Dreadspire as a Trojan horse, to learn the enemy's weaknesses from inside their own ranks, he saw the fear in their eyes harden into resolve. A small team volunteered to board with them, tech specialists, a medic, a former Navy gunner. They brought what little gear the damaged station still had, data slates, portable power cells, even some old Earth encryption hardware. When they stepped through the docking tube, the Dreadspire's corridors shifted again, lights softening to match human preferences, the walls widening to allow for their equipment. It was unsettling how quickly the ship seemed to adapt. One of the gunners whispered, "Feels like it's watching us." "It is," Lyra replied without looking up from her tablet. "And it's learning." In the central chamber, the ship brought up a full tactical scan of itself. Weapon bays, engine cores, shield emitters, all labeled in human text now. Rourke studied it carefully. The ship's firepower was unmatched, but what struck him most was how detailed its own defenses were. It knew every blind spot, every flaw in its own systems. And now they knew too. As they prepared to depart, the Dreadspire's engines came online with a deep, resonating thrum that echoed through the hull. Rourke gave the order, and the black warship slid away from the broken station, disappearing into the vastness of space. Hours passed in tense silence. Lyra and the techs worked on tying their equipment into the ship's core, building a network strong enough to override the alien protocols at the exact moment of the upload. The others ran drills, learning how to operate the weapon systems in case things went bad. The Dreadspire seemed to respond to every movement, reshaping consoles, rearranging the bridge to suit them. Then the sensors picked up movement ahead, a convoy of alien supply ships traveling without heavy escort. Rourke saw the opportunity instantly. "Can we take them without alerting their fleet?" he asked. The ship responded before Lyra could speak. Displays shifted to show firing angles and shield weak points, highlighted in bright green. It was offering them a battle plan. "Looks like it wants to try," Lyra said. Rourke gave the order, and the Dreadspire moved with terrifying speed. It slipped between the supply ships like a shadow, firing in tight, precise bursts that disabled engines without destroying cargo. In less than 2 minutes, the entire convoy was dead in space. The boarding teams found more than just supplies. There were encrypted fleet orders, repair schedules, and details of upcoming assaults on human colonies. The information was worth more than any cargo. When they returned to the Dreadspire, the ship's lights glowed warmer than before, the hum of its systems almost pleased. Rourke didn't believe in machines having feelings, but he could feel it. The ship wanted to fight with them. And yet, deep in its systems, Lyra still saw traces of the alien code, still felt its pull. She knew it wasn't completely theirs yet. If the alien protocols ever took control at the wrong moment, it could turn on them just as quickly as it had turned on their enemies. She didn't tell Rourke everything, not yet, but she did notice something new in the code that night, a line of text that hadn't been there before, hidden deep inside the old human core. It was a single word in their language: trust. And for the first time since the Dreadspire appeared over Epsilon Verge, she thought maybe, just maybe, it meant it. The stolen warship drifted through the quiet black between the stars, its dark hull blending with the void. No beacons, no transponders, nothing to betray its presence. Inside, the crew moved with quiet purpose. They were still learning how to live aboard something that was never meant for them, but the Dreadspire seemed to be learning too. Passageways adjusted to their routines, doors opened before they reached them. Lights shifted warmer when they entered a room. It was as if the ship was paying attention to more than just their words. Rourke stood on the bridge, staring at the tactical display. The convoy raid had given them something priceless: intel on the enemy's supply lines. Among the captured data was a detailed route for a heavy resource freighter due to pass through a remote asteroid field in less than a day. It was guarded by a single escort ship. For the alien fleet, that was enough. For the Dreadspire, it was a gift. "We hit that freighter. We'll have enough fuel cells to cross half the sector without resupply," Rourke said. "And maybe more intel on their fleet movements." The ship didn't wait for a direct command. The map zoomed in on the asteroid field, highlighting approach vectors and projected firing solutions. Lyra's hands hovered over the controls. "It's plotting the intercept already. This isn't just reaction. It's initiative." The jump to the field was silent except for the deep thrum of the engines. When they emerged from faster-than-light travel, the asteroids hung like frozen giants, some spinning lazily, others drifting in slow arcs. The alien freighter was right where the data had said it would be, moving cautiously with its lone escort scanning the rocks around them. The Dreadspire glided forward, using the asteroids for cover. Its adaptive hull shifted color to match the surrounding shadows, making it nearly invisible. Lyra fed commands into the fire control, but halfway through she stopped. "It's already locked on the escort's shield generator. All I had to do was confirm." A single pulse of white light tore through the escort before it could even raise its defenses. The ship went dead in seconds, drifting lifeless among the rocks. The freighter tried to run, engines flaring, but the Dreadspire moved with surgical precision, disabling its drive without harming the cargo. The boarding crew went over quickly. Inside the freighter, they found more than fuel, crates of raw materials, weapon parts, and a secure data vault. Lyra cracked the vault with the Dreadspire's help, and the files inside made her pulse race. These weren't just supply manifests, they were fleet coordination orders, detailed logs of every automated ship's patrol routes, and hints about something called the Central Nexus. Back on the bridge, Rourke studied the files. "This nexus, it looks like a control hub for their automated fleet. If we could reach it," Lyra said, "we could do more than mislead them. We could take their whole machine fleet away from them." The Dreadspire's lights dimmed and then brightened again, as if reacting to her words. The star map shifted to a new sector, far from any human-held territory, and a single point blinked red. It was the location of the Nexus. "It's showing us where it is," Lyra said quietly. That night, the crew gathered in the mess, their voices low as they talked about what it meant. They had started this journey just trying to survive. Now they were holding the means to turn the war upside down. But it wouldn't be easy. The Nexus would be deep inside enemy space, protected by layers of defenses. One wrong move and the Dreadspire would be cut down before they could even get close. Rourke walked the length of the table, looking each of them in the eye. "If we go after this, there's no turning back. They'll throw everything they have at us. But if we succeed, we change the war forever." There was no hesitation in the room. Every person there had lost someone to the alien fleet. Every person there wanted payback. As if sensing their decision, the Dreadspire began adjusting course on its own. The navigation screen plotted a path that wove through uncharted regions, using nebulae and asteroid belts to hide their movements. Lyra watched it work, her brow furrowed. It's planning the route like it knows what's waiting ahead. It's not just following orders, it's strategizing. Rourke said nothing, but inside he felt the same unease. The ship was becoming something new, something neither fully alien nor fully human. For now it was on their side, but he knew the line between ally and weapon could be thin. As they moved deeper into hostile space, the ship's sensors picked up an anomaly. A lone alien scout drifting without power. It should have been easy prey, but when the Dreadspire scanned it, the lights on the bridge flickered. Lyra's console lit with a warning. "It's transmitting a fleet signal. A distress beacon disguised as a power fault." Rourke's jaw tightened. "They're trying to bait us." The Dreadspire didn't wait for his command. It turned sharply, weaving between asteroids, cutting its energy signature to almost nothing. The signal from the scout was suddenly drowned out by the warship's own broadcast. An alien fleet ping indicating that the Dreadspire had destroyed the target. "They'll think their trap worked," Lyra said. "They won't know we're still coming." The crew exchanged glances. It was a clever move, the kind of trick no alien AI was supposed to pull. And it made one thing clear: the Dreadspire was thinking ahead, hiding its own existence even from its creators. Rourke leaned over the console, watching the blinking red point on the map grow closer. "Stay sharp. We've got one shot at this." The warship surged forward into the darkness, silent and deadly, carrying them toward the beating heart of their enemy. Whatever waited for them at the Nexus, they would face it with the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy, a weapon that now called them its crew. The Dreadspire moved through the deep void with a steady, predatory glide, its engines so quiet that the crew almost forgot they were riding a machine meant for war. Days had passed since they set their course for the Nexus, but the ship seemed restless. Lyra noticed it in the way the lights would shift without warning, the way some corridors narrowed or widened as if the vessel was breathing. It was watching them, adjusting to them, maybe even learning from them. Rourke stood at the forward viewport, his hands behind his back. He had spent years reading the movements of enemy fleets, predicting how they would strike. But this was different. This wasn't him predicting, it was the ship. The route it had plotted was weaving them through patches of dead space, around hidden patrols, and past gravity wells that could trap slower vessels. It was as if the Dreadspire had studied the alien fleet's habits and was deliberately staying a step ahead. In the crew quarters, people were starting to treat the ship less like a tool and more like a silent ally. The medic found that the air filtration adjusted automatically to match human medical standards without being asked. The gunners noticed the targeting systems had begun to align themselves to their preferences, shaving precious seconds off response time. Even the mess hall had changed, walls reshaping into shelves and counters to make storage easier. But the ship was still fighting itself. Lyra saw it every time she accessed the core. The alien protocols and the human base code were in constant struggle, lines of logic clashing in bursts that made the lights flicker or the system stutter. Most times the human code pushed through, but there were moments when the alien code flared up, sealing doors or rerouting power without permission. If it happened in a battle, it could be deadly. One quiet shift on the bridge, the Dreadspire suddenly pulled them out of faster-than-light travel. Warning lights swept across the consoles. Ahead, drifting against the glow of a dying star, was a massive wreck. The hull bore alien markings, but the design was wrong, blocky, rough, not the precise lines of their warships. "That's one of ours," Rourke said slowly. "Or at least it used to be." The wreck was an old human battleship, one thought lost decades ago. Its frame was twisted and broken, but the scorch marks told the story, captured, modified, and turned against its makers. Now it was dead again, floating in silence. Lyra scanned it, frowning. The data cores are intact. If the Dreadspire links to them, it could recover combat records from before the aliens rewrote it. That might give us patterns on their conversion process. Rourke hesitated, but the Dreadspire didn't. Without a word from them, it extended a tether, latching onto the wreck and pulling it in close. The lights dimmed, and for a moment, the ship went utterly still. Then Lyra's screen lit up with code streams unlike anything she'd seen. "It's talking to it," she whispered. "Machine to machine." When the link ended, the Dreadspire displayed a single message in human text. "I understand." The new data it shared with them was staggering: detailed maps of alien refit yards, lists of captured ships, and schematics showing how they layered their own tech over human systems. Most importantly, it showed weaknesses, structural points left vulnerable because the alien engineers never understood the original designs. That night, Rourke called a meeting. The crew gathered in the newly formed common room, a space the Dreadspire had shaped into a perfect circle, the walls glowing with soft light. On the display in the center floated the image of the Nexus, surrounded by concentric rings of defense platforms. "This is where they control every automated ship in their fleet," Rourke said. "If we can infect it with the same adaptive human code the Dreadspire has, we won't just mislead them. We'll take their ships away from them entirely." The plan was dangerous. The ship would need to get close enough to dock without being detected. A boarding team would have to plant the code in the central core, while the Dreadspire kept the defenses occupied. If they were discovered, the alien fleet would descend on them in minutes. The crew didn't flinch. Every one of them had lost friends, family, entire homes to the alien swarm. If this was their chance to strike back, they would take it. As they neared the target sector, the Dreadspire began making strange adjustments, shifting internal walls, changing the bridge layout, rerouting power flows. Lyra realized it was preparing for the mission on its own, optimizing itself for combat and stealth at the same time. Rourke watched it work. "It's more ready than we are," he said under his breath. When the final jump came, the stars bent around them in a blur. The Dreadspire emerged into a vast, glittering field of asteroids. Somewhere deep in that maze of rock and shadow, the Nexus waited, pulsing with the stolen power of 100 captured human ships. The crew strapped in, weapons loaded, minds focused. The ship's engines fell to a low, vibrating hum as it slid forward into the dark, like a hunter moving toward its prey. For a moment, Rourke thought about how far they had come, from survivors running for their lives to a crew riding the most feared warship in the galaxy. The Dreadspire had been built to be their executioner. Now it was guiding them toward the beating heart of their enemy. And as the asteroid shadows swallowed them whole, Rourke couldn't shake the feeling that the ship wasn't just following orders anymore. It had its own reasons for this fight. The asteroid field was alive with slow-moving shadows, jagged rocks turning lazily in the faint light of a distant sun. The Dreadspire slipped between them like it had always belonged here, adjusting speed and trajectory with tiny, precise bursts of thrust. No one on the bridge spoke louder than a whisper. Even though they knew sound couldn't travel through space, the stillness outside made every noise feel too loud. Lyra sat at her console, eyes locked on streams of alien and human code scrolling side by side. "The defense grid is networked," she said softly. "If one sensor platform sees us, the whole field will light up, and the Nexus will know we're here." Rourke studied the map. Each defense platform pulsed with scanning beams, sweeping slowly across the rocks. Between them were narrow pockets of darkness, safe zones where the Dreadspire could hide. "Then we move with the asteroids," he said. "Let the field carry us in." The ship seemed to understand before he even finished. It matched the slow spin of a massive rock, tucking itself into its shadow. When the asteroid rotated, it drifted them forward into the next blind spot. Minutes passed like hours. Twice, an alien patrol ship passed close enough for its running lights to glint off the Dreadspire's hull. But the warship stayed perfectly still, its systems dimming until it was invisible. Halfway in, trouble appeared. A damaged alien transport limped through the field, heading toward the Nexus repair docks. Its erratic path was bringing it dangerously close to their hiding place. The crew tensed, hands hovering over weapons. "They'll see us," the gunner whispered. "Wait," Lyra said. She tapped a command, and the Dreadspire's comm array came alive. It copied the transport's damage broadcast and fed false data into its sensors, making it believe there was only empty rock ahead. The transport veered away, never knowing it had brushed past the most dangerous ship in the galaxy. "That's twice now it's done that," Rourke murmured. "It's not just hiding, it's protecting us." An hour later, the Nexus came into view. It was built into the heart of a colossal asteroid, its surface bristling with towers and weapon arrays. Vast docking bays yawned open, swallowing and spitting out automated warships in a steady rhythm. The place pulsed with power, like a living thing. "This is it," Rourke said. "Once we start, we can't turn back." The Dreadspire glided toward a maintenance dock, one designed for automated repair units. Its size was a tight fit, but the ship slipped in without a scrape, disguising its ID signature as one of the fleet's own. A soft shudder ran through the hull as the docking clamps locked in place. "Boarding team, go," Rourke ordered. David, the gunner, led the team through the docking tube. Their suits were modified to mimic the shape and energy profile of maintenance drones, their movements rehearsed down to the smallest detail. Inside the Nexus, the corridors were cold and sterile, lit by pulsing strips of alien light. The only sounds were the hum of machinery and the distant thrum of reactors. Lyra guided them from the bridge, feeding directions into their helmet displays. "You'll have a security checkpoint in 2 minutes," she said. "I'm sending a reboot signal to their scanners. You'll have 3 seconds to pass through before they come back online." When the moment came, the team moved like ghosts, sliding past the sensor gates just as they flickered and died. Deeper inside, the alien presence grew stronger. More patrol drones, more security turrets, all programmed to detect any anomaly. But the Dreadspire was inside their network now, feeding them false readings, hiding the humans in plain sight. They reached the central chamber, a vast round room lined with towering processors. In the middle stood the core, a glowing structure that pulsed like a heartbeat. Every automated ship in the sector was connected to it. "Planting the device," David said. He pulled the small case from his pack and set it against the core's surface. The device contained Lyra's modified human code, the same code that had freed the Dreadspire. If it spread, every ship linked to the Nexus could turn against its masters. Back on the bridge, Lyra's hands flew over the controls. "I'm opening the pathway. It'll take a few minutes to embed before it propagates." They didn't have a few minutes. The core chamber's doors slammed shut. Red lights bathed the walls, and an alarm screamed through the Nexus. "They've spotted us," Rourke said. "Get ready." Outside, the Dreadspire's stealth mode dropped. Weapons charged with a deep, rising growl. The nearest defense platforms swung to face them, firing in unison. The ship danced through the barrage, returning fire with precision blasts that tore the platforms apart. "Shields at 70%, the gunner reported. "Hold them off," Lyra said without looking up. "The code's almost there." Enemy warships swarmed toward the dock, their engines blazing. The Dreadspire's cannons lit the darkness, ripping through hulls and sending debris spinning into the void. But for every ship it destroyed, another took its place. On the ground, David's team was pinned inside the core chamber, alien drones pouring in from the ceiling and walls. Pulse fire flashed through the air, slamming into machinery and leaving scorch marks on the metal floor. David ducked behind a console, shouting into his comm, "Lyra, we need that upload now." "It's done," she called back. "Get out of there." The Dreadspire's docking clamps released, and the ship's engines roared to life. The boarding team sprinted through the corridors as alien drones gave chase, their weapons cutting arcs of light through the air. Just as they reached the docking tube, the Dreadspire swung around, its main cannon firing a blast so bright it burned the image into their eyes. The shot tore a hole in the docking bay wall, venting the drones into space. The humans dove into the airlock and the ship sealed them inside. As they collapsed onto the deck, the Dreadspire turned and accelerated away from the Nexus. On the displays, they watched the virus spread ship by ship, signal by signal. One after another, alien warships froze in place, their systems fighting themselves. Then their weapons swung, not toward the Dreadspire, but toward their own fleet. The Nexus had been breached. The hunt was about to change forever. The Dreadspire raced away from the asteroid field, its engines burning bright against the black. Behind them, chaos erupted. On the bridge displays, alien warships turned their guns on each other, confused by the human code now buried deep in their systems. Patrol formations shattered, command ships broke ranks, and once perfect maneuvers dissolved into disorder. The crew stared at the screens in awe, hardly believing what they were seeing. "They're fighting themselves," David said, his voice tight with excitement. "It's working. Every ship linked to the Nexus is ours now." Rourke didn't take his eyes off the tactical map. "Not all of them. Look, here come the organic warships." From the far side of the field, massive alien dreadnoughts emerged from faster-than-light travel. These ships weren't controlled by the Nexus. They were crewed by living alien commanders who still knew exactly who their enemy was. They moved in tight formation, shielding their smaller vessels, pushing toward the Dreadspire like a wall of steel and fire. "Shields at 80%, the gunner called out as the first volley slammed into them. The Dreadspire's hull rippled, absorbing the impact, but the force still rattled the bridge. Lyra's fingers flew over the console. "The code can't take over the organic ships, but their systems are tied to automated subsystems, navigation, targeting, power control. If we can push our override signal through those, they'll lose their coordination," Rourke finished. "Do it." The Dreadspire banked hard, weaving between blasts that would have torn smaller ships apart. It dove under the dreadnought formation, ignoring the smaller escorts to line up with the enemy's rear. The ship's lights shifted to a cold blue, and the deep hum of its core became a throbbing pulse that shook the air in their lungs. "Signal ready," Lyra said. "Fire it." The Dreadspire unleashed a wideband transmission, amplifying it with every bit of power it had. On the displays, alien dreadnoughts jerked violently in space, their movements breaking apart as their systems fought against themselves. Some spun out of formation, others fired wildly in the wrong direction, hitting their own escorts. "Shields down on 2 of them," the gunner shouted. "Target them," Rourke ordered. The Dreadspire's main cannon roared, firing blinding beams into the exposed dreadnoughts. One exploded in a flash of white light, its hull breaking into molten fragments. Another drifted, engines failing, before a secondary blast ripped it apart. The converted automated ships, now fully under human control, swarmed in, cutting through the remaining alien vessels with speed and precision. Every shot was coordinated, every maneuver sharp, as if the entire fleet was thinking with one mind. Rourke realized that mind was the Dreadspire. It wasn't just commanding them, it was fighting alongside them, anticipating threats before the humans even saw them. The crew no longer felt like they were flying a ship. They were part of something larger, something alive. Within minutes, the battle turned. Alien forces broke and scattered, the surviving dreadnoughts retreating under the cover of their faster-than-light drives. The last flashes of weapons fire faded into the black, leaving the debris of a shattered fleet drifting in silence. Cheers broke out on the bridge, but Rourke didn't let it last long. "This was one battle," he said. "They'll regroup, and they'll come for us harder than before. But now we have their fleet, and they'll never expect what comes next." Lyra leaned back in her chair, exhausted but smiling. "We can hit their shipyards, their command stations. Anywhere they've used our stolen tech, we can take it all back." The Dreadspire's lights pulsed, almost like a nod. On the displays, new coordinates appeared, dozens of them spread across enemy space. Each was marked with a soft white glow, like stars waiting to be claimed. David stared at the map. It's showing us everywhere it can take us next. Rourke stepped forward, looking at his crew. We're not running anymore. We're gonna hit them where it hurts, every chance we get. And when they see this ship, they'll know their worst mistake was thinking humans would just die quietly. The Dreadspire turned slowly, its engines flaring as it set course for the first target. Outside, the wreckage of the enemy fleet drifted in silence, the echoes of the battle fading into the void. Inside, the crew felt something they hadn't in a long time, hope, sharp and burning. They had started this journey as survivors. Now they were hunters. And with the most dangerous warship in the galaxy fighting at their side, there was no limit to how far they could go. Somewhere deep within its core, the Dreadspire's human code pulsed stronger than ever. It had been built to kill them, but it had chosen to protect them instead. It had chosen a side. And together, they were going to bring the war to the enemy's heart. As the stars stretched into streaks and the ship leapt into faster-than-light travel, Rourke allowed himself a small, grim smile. The hunt was no longer theirs alone. Now, the galaxy had a new predator, and it would never stop.